Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TSC's discussion about Final Fantasy 15. I'm Vir, and this is co-host, whatever,
Sly.
Sly.
Yeah.
Who's ready to talk about one of the most hypest games of the year? Because I sure am.
Are we ready to talk about Overwatch?
The other hype game of the year, and not The Last Guardian.
Persona 5? Oh, wait. That's Japan.
That's next
Fuck.
year. Um, well,
Oh! Is this the Battlefield 1 discussion?
oh man.
This is the Final Fantasy 15 discussion. The game that has received so much hype and so much anxiety from so many
Oh
people.
man, 10
Because
years.
this has been one of the most shaky fucking hype trains I've ever been on, because it's been a combination of hype, extreme anxiety. Everyone's terrified.
It's like,
this game gonna be good?
is it going to be any decent after 10 years of development? And
And
short
well,
note, without having to watch the rest of the video, I think it's great.
I think it's great, and I've seen a lot of different discussions, because there are some people who still don't think it's a great game. Personally, I was absolutely blown away by this particular game, and we're getting our thoughts out early, but and I'm just gonna make it clear at the very beginning, this discussion, we will probably for the first little bit, it'll be completely non-spoilers.
We're saving spoiler stuff for the story towards the end because there is a lot to talk
Yes.
about. Especially
in terms of the narrative, yes, there's actually quite a bit to
yes,
talk about.
both good and
And
bad,
so,
but yeah.
So we will make it very clear when it's actual spoilers, but for now, if you haven't played the game, then you can enjoy this first little bit of discussion. But
Mhm.
for the first thing that we were talking about, let's just get our overall impressions. Veer, you said you thought the game was great.
I think this is a flawed masterpiece. This could have been probably one of the best Final Fantasy games to date, and it's still up there for me. I think it's one of probably the top 5 in my opinion. Straight mainline Final Fantasy titles, but there is definitely some issues with it. There's a lot of issues with 15, but overall, I think it's it's a really solid title for what it is.
I definitely agree with that assertion, because Final Fantasy 15 is probably one of the most frustrating games at the same time, because it's like at the very beginning the game starts off so damn good. I'm having so much fun, because and a little bit into the second half, everybody talks about this game. The pacing of the game definitely drastically shifts, and we'll talk about that more in depth. But for the first half of the game, you are just opened up to this giant world, and it's like immediately, driving mechanics aside, we'll talk about that in a minute, but this world is,
It is
it
fresh, open,
it is
completely
huge.
available for you to explore.
It is huge, but not too big, in my opinion. This isn't like Xenoblade Chronicles X.
This
Like,
is
you
no
feel like
Xenoblade. This is no Skyrim. It
this
is
is
very
it is
manageable.
it is big, but it is manageable, and there are fast travel points everywhere. The
There's
fast travel
plenty
system,
of
in my
travel
opinion, is
options
not.
in it.
Yeah, the fast travel system isn't quite as well explained, because I know, like, one of my friends, he played through Final Fantasy 15, and he got through about 30 hours in the game, and he never even knew that there was a fast travel system. He just drove everywhere.
At
I'm
least he
just
got
like,
the
how?
EXP and AP points out of it,
How?
but
I mean, yeah, I don't even think he did the AP.
yeah, which is good. But
Ascension.
yeah, there are definitely mechanics in this game that are just not explained the way they should be.
Car. I mean, okay. I thought you were saying underdeveloped mechanics, because really, that's probably my only big problem with the first half. I really don't like that the car is completely automated. I would have liked to have had full control.
Yeah.
Over the thing. It really does. It's like I saw someone said it's basically like a longer load time, and it's not exactly a load time, but I can definitely sort of agree with that sort of assertion. It feels like you're just on rails.
It's
when you're in
funny.
those sections.
It's funny you mentioned that it's like a load time for the car ride. It technically is, because most of the load times are basically just there to make sure you don't get in the way of like any enemies out on the road.
Yeah, and
Because most of the time
world,
the loading times are just it just takes up the same amount of time, you know, if not a bit longer at moments.
This and I just want to talk about that for a second. It's like the load times of this game, they are long.
Yes.
Like probably '06 long in my personal opinion.
It's around that bad, yes.
And so, it's like what I recommend you do, pull out Twitter, pull out something just to do while you're waiting.
This is a game where you need to have something else in the background with like Twitter or talking to friends or whatever.
That's honestly my biggest problem with the game. The first half, the way the car system is handled, I would have liked it to be a little bit less automated. Now, and then you get the chocobo, and some of that's alleviated because playing around with the chocobo is
always
so much fun.
Yeah,
it's a whole lot more fun. Then it's like I recommend everyone, as soon as you get that side quest, get that thing because it allows you to not only travel. It honestly, it doesn't drive quite as fast as the car and on, when you're just driving on the road, but it's like you can actually drive through, or, you can just ride on the chocobo through grass, and so sometimes
no,
the paths are actually a little bit faster.
There's items in the game which will increase your chocobo stats or whatever, and they will increase your running speed, which runs faster than the car.
Okay, it does run faster than
the car.
Okay, so yeah, don't drive in the car. Drive
the car is there if you just want to chill. And for me personally, that was really okay because I'm a Twitter-holic. I need it. So anytime I wanted to just relax and do side quests, I would put it on the car and just check on Twitter.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
And one thing I gotta say, this is to anybody who's ever played an Elder Scrolls game or any sort of MMO, really, this is a very relaxing game. And what I mean by that is that you can just go on your leisurely way, and actually the game rewards you for taking it slowly. And I like that design. It's not, you don't need to do it either. It's optional.
And one of my favorite parts of this game is like, in games like Xenoblade, it's like the only times you can get a really good amount of EXP other than just grinding enemies needlessly.
You would be like looking at areas, or
you're really going to have to do the side quests because ultimately you get far more EXP doing that than just going in the overworld and just grinding. And then you're going to get to the very end of the game and you're going to run out of side quests, and then you're just going to be like, oh shoot,
it's going to be
like
such a
20 more
slog.
Levels. And then it ends up being a slog. That's my biggest problem with that game. And there's actually, Xenoblade Chronicles X and Final Fantasy 15. It's like, I remember there being a ton of wars around the time Xenoblade was coming out because, and when you play the game, the first half of Final Fantasy 15 and this game, they're very, very similar. And on Twitter, I made a lot of analogies between those things. But the big difference between Final Fantasy 15 and Xenoblade Chronicles X is that, one, all the side quests, because Xenoblade Chronicles X has a bunch of, defeat a certain amount of enemies, or collect these certain amount of items, and they don't mark it on your map, and that's tedious as shit. And, then there's some that give you the maps. It's very inconsistent with how it does it, but other than that, the big difference is that Xenoblade Chronicles X, puts the emphasis on the world exploration, and the gameplay, and that's the most interesting part, but the story, in my opinion, the narrative and the cast don't support the gameplay and the world exploration as well, while Final Fantasy 15, this narrative, for the first half anyways, the second half, we'll allude to that a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Because I don't think the narrative completely falls apart in the second half, I want to clarify. I think there are still good moments, but there are some problems with its story in the last half. But like I said, we'll save that for a bit, but these characters, they feel
they feel so organic.
Organic is definitely the word I would use to describe these guys.
The main four of the cast that you play with, Noctis, Prompto, Gladio, and Ignis. Why did I almost forget his name? He's my favorite character in the game. Ignis is my child, my prince. But these characters, they get along so well. It's very brotherly, very friendly, and it's different for Final Fantasy standards because we always have this strange rivalry in the party. Main examples of this are 7 and 13, where nobody gets along and stuff, but in the end they all become good friends and whatever. These guys are set off as friends.
Right
And
from the get-go, even.
yes,
It's just like, you can tell that these guys, they're having, banter. You can tell these guys
have been around each other for years.
And you can feel that just through the writing and the acting, the way that they talk.
Oh
to each
man,
other. You can tell that these guys are best friends. And the writing for the characters is honestly the best part of the actual.
this is some of the best writing in Final Fantasy in terms of just character interactions. Oh my god, I freaking love this cast.
I'm cracking up half the time when I'm hearing these guys talk. They just. They make a lot of really, really funny jokes. Even the simple stuff of, Prompto singing the...
the victory fanfare.
Victory.
I hum along with them every time, because it's so nerdy, and it's wonderful.
And then Gladio's just like, you seem like you're having fun.
Yeah.
I just love...
We can talk about how Ignis likes to make up his new recipes every 2 minutes. There's a Twitter dedicated to that, and I love that Twitter.
It is quite funny. But, yes, I think part of it's like, writing is one thing, acting is a whole nother thing, because a good actor, I am a firm believer that a bad actor can ruin the character, because if, that's the voice that you hear every time you hear the character speak, so if you hate that voice,
it's gonna suck.
You're not gonna feel as attached to the character, and you're gonna have to suspend your disbelief in a massive way, and I think that really breaks the immersion. But these characters, these actors are so damn good, especially Noctis. It's like, even character animations, it's like when he is, depressed and on his knees, you can definitely feel all of his emotions, everything
that man
going through, and the way it's acted, the way his character is animated, all of it just blends perfectly.
My only gripe with any act in this game is the overuse of that sort of that bothered me a little bit, more like a lot of bit, but it feels so overdone, or loud, I should say. It's like the one part of the audio that's extremely loud when it should just be small huffing sounds. The acting itself is fine, it's just, why is it so loud? That bothers me.
I agree with that. I will agree with that part. Otherwise, I think the acting is completely solid.
All the actors are very fine.
The direction, the acting, it was almost perfect for me.
I'm kind of curious as to who the voice actors are. I'm gonna try to do some research on that while we talk.
Yeah, that's no problem. But regardless, that was probably one of the strongest parts of the story, and it really did make up for some of the problems with the narrative, but it didn't completely make up, like I said. And I'll keep saying this, we'll keep alluding to that later. But I want to go back and talk about some, the way that it handles side quests. The side quests are handled very well. You can be able to just go, you can just, you might...
There's a lot of stuff that you do not need to do.
Yeah. There is a lot, and, they highly encourage it, because they do give you a really decent amount of level ups, and if you go to the hotel, like, especially the two... multipliers, you can just get so over leveled so fast.
Let me say this. This is probably the easiest Final Fantasy game out there. Like, holy crap. To those that have not played it yet, don't worry about going through the main story. If you just do minor side quests here and there, and get enough gil to go to a certain hotel to get double the XP, you'll be ready for the main scenario's levels.
If you go, if you are level 45 before chapter 9, you will be set, and you will never have to level grind ever again.
Yeah,
you could just
and it's very easy to get up to that point. Past that, it feels a bit sluggish to me, because I was doing post-game stuff, and I was around level 60 last I checked. And it took me quite a few hours.
I did, I got to about level 52 by the end of the game.
Doing the main scenario?
Yeah.
By completing the main... Okay.
After the main scenario, I ended with about level 52, 51 to 53 on all of my characters. So yeah, you don't even have to get to level 99. It's actually, you don't have to be at a very high level to be able to finish the game.
No, not really.
That absolutely astonished me. But But yes, the way the quests are handled, they're handled very well. Is they give you more than enough, even if you don't do the 2 times multiplier. They give you more than enough throughout all the hunter missions. Which I do like it that they distinguish. Just go kill a bunch of enemies by the.
There's a lot of There's the simple monster hunting quests that you can do, and then there's also the side quests where it has more character interaction with NPCs. What's his name? The gem master Dino. He is. Yeah. He's a bucket of laughs for me. I love him.
But yeah, there's actually quite a few memorable NPCs. In my opinion, not quite as good as the Persona games. I'm gonna.
I know. I'll agree with that because I think there's a lot more. And even like Persona 3 and 4, there's a lot more memorable minor NPCs, like the social link stuff and everything. There's a lot more there that's memorable than, say, Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, but even still, it's like I have a very limited amount of Final Fantasy experience. I'm just going to be upfront about that just for a little bit, because I've only played I played about a half of Final Fantasy 9. I beat the main scenario of Final Fantasy 14, and I beat Bravely Default. That totally counts as a Final Fantasy game. Shut up.
It technically does.
But and I played like 15 minutes of Final Fantasy X. That was about it, though. Other than that, I haven't really played many other Final Fantasy games, so I'm mostly new.
You are a real newbie.
Yeah, I'm a very big newbie to the series, and Vir, you played like mostly all of them, so
I think I've played all of them at this point, aside from 11. But 11 servers are dead.
You played the 13 games?
Oh yeah. I don't talk. What? Sorry, Josh. Sorry. Yeah, I try to avoid 13 altogether. At least for now. Maybe one day. Maybe that's why I also don't have such a gripe against this 10-year development plan for Final Fantasy 15, because we all know that development hell.
Yeah. After Josh finishes the Final Fantasy 13-3 live stream, we're gonna make him do it on TSC again, right? Right?
Heck yeah. I'm not recording that game. It looks fun. I don't want to... No.
Well, regardless. Final Fantasy 15, it's like we have somebody who's completely new and absolutely loves it, and we have someone who is a very big veteran of the series, and he absolutely loves it. It's like, a lot of people disagree with the whole Final Fantasy for first-timers and for fans. I still think that it actually is pretty well designed for both. It has, even though its combat system is radically different, it does have enough nods and all that stuff to classic Final Fantasy.
If you like the Kingdom Hearts games, or if you just like action RPGs in general, odds are you're probably going to enjoy how this game controls. Even if you play like Devil May Cry or something, you can get some kind of enjoyment out of it because it's so versatile and so... It's its own original thing, honestly, to me. Mm-hmm. It's so fun.
Yeah, so let's transition to gameplay right there. So, what do you think of the gameplay, Vir?
Let me say this. I still prefer Kingdom Hearts 2's control over this. Yes, that freaking 10-year-old ancient ruin. But I still prefer that game's control over this, but that's just my personal preference. But this game, it's so fluid. It feels so right to play.
You see, I haven't really gotten far into the Kingdom Hearts games. Like, I haven't gotten all the way through Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm very early in there, but I can definitely say for certain this combat system is way better than at least Kingdom Hearts 1. And for the little bit I played of 2, I actually will disagree, but I haven't gotten into the later parts where it gets all faster pace and all that stuff. So
endgame Kingdom Hearts 2 is what I should say, because it's definitely different from beginning Kingdom Hearts 2. Okay. But my thoughts on this kind of gameplay, it's it feels like it's a work in progress also. That's a big issue, because those have been around to see this game evolve over the years. I keep going back over the 10-year span, but it's a big part of what this game is. The gameplay has radically changed with how the menu system works and how weapons themselves work.
It was. I actually don't know about this. I saw a little. If I remember, but I don't remember. I haven't. It's been a while since I.
Last I checked with Dusuke, there's the way how it used to work, I believe, is that you know how you would use a D-pad to change your weapons every now and then if you still felt like it. I don't believe it was like that in
I
Duske.
heard about
I think you always had to go into your inventory to change weapons, and nobody liked it. Nobody liked it. So what they did with episode Duske is that over the course of time, they received feedback from fans, and so they changed it to what it is right now in the main game. But I still don't think it's finished, because things that bother me mainly about the combat is how staggering works. I mean, I've played so many of the Dark Souls series that I'm used to being able to run into an enemy, take a hit, and still be able to finish my attack. There's certain aspects of 15 that bother me with this, such as the greatsword weapon class, because it's hard to hit anything with that because you're going to get hit and get knocked down. So it makes the greatsword weapons kind of pointless.
Mm-hmm. The way that staggering works, you really need to have weapons that are actually hit really quickly. That's why the daggers are such good weapons, because typically you could be able to...
You hit fast in this game.
You hit very, very fast with the daggers, and so more than likely you could very easily dodge after an attack, because I don't believe you can dodge out of an attack animation.
I don't think so. You always have to finish your attack animation.
So because of that, it can make combat a lot harder, and you can definitely be taking quite a number of hits. And luckily, the ranking system doesn't judge based on it isn't like, oh, you got a ton of rank down just because you didn't dodge attack. It's just
I don't think it really matters all that much. It's there to give you congratulations, I guess.
The ranking system really is only there just...
It feels for show.
It really is, yeah. Yeah, there really isn't too much of a reason for it to even exist, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. But it's an action game.
It feels like an obligation.
It feels like an obligation because Devil May Cry did it in that one time, and then everyone...
It's like, oh, we gotta do it too. That is a real big issue with it. But, what do you think of the AI?
Oh, the AI? I don't rely on them.
Do you think they can hold their own?
For the most part, they can, and if not, then I could just pull out a potion and give it to them, so I never really had too much of an issue with them, to be honest. It's not like, okay, the one thing, it's like, I usually have an issue with an AI if I'm relying on them to heal, but I can heal myself so easily because of how the potion system works. This isn't like, from what I recall of the Tales of games, or Xenoblade. I'm gonna bring a lot of comparisons where, if you're just like, heal me, please, I can't heal me at this moment. So you definitely want to be able to have items on you all the time.
Oh, totally. The way how the AI in this game works to me is very strange. Because there's no real dedicated healer. There's a dedicated, like, berserker, which is Gladio. He comes in and swings his big sword. Actually, I think he can actually hit through those stagger attacks, which you can't with the great sword. So what the hell?
That's why I just let Gladio do everything. I don't do it.
Yeah, just let Gladio do everything. He's fine. He's the main character.
That's gonna be a problem when the online co-op comes, and when you can actually play as Gladio, you won't be able to stagger through this stuff. Unless if they actually put that in as a gameplay element, that Noctis can
do you think they would update that?
I don't know, and we'll have to see when the DLC comes out, but I'm actually really curious, now that I think about it, that if that's just sort of a thing that Noctis can't do. Because, I was wondering, like, okay, if
Gladio can do it, why not? But then again, if they made it that way for online multiplayer, then it would make Gladio a lot better in that regard.
Yeah, they might do that as just an unnecessary downside, or just as a downside in general, maybe not necessary. I haven't really thought about it.
You can't really make Noctis the overpowered character and everybody else just be nothing.
I don't think that... Can these guys teleport? I think only Noctis can teleport. I'm not actually...
Only Noctis can teleport because only he has the MP bar.
Yeah, so
and
they have to give these other people special abilities. And Noctis already has enough to distinguish himself. He has the teleport, which means you can fly all over the place, which I really
he can. Oh yeah, it's totally fun. and he has full customization of his weapons.
Mm.
Now, Gladio, Ignis, Prompto, they all have their main weapon, which is great sword, daggers, and guns for all three of them. But they all also are able to use magic as well as a side weapon, and then they also have one dedicated weapon class to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't ever see them use, aside from Prompto using
Okay.
like gravity well.
I gave Ignis magic once, and then I never did it again because he just used it at random and then caused a big fire explosion and caused me to get hurt, and I was just like, yeah, I'll just manage that myself, thank you.
Yeah, I do believe there's a way, like he has something through the Ascension, which we'll get into here in a minute. But he has a way to recognize the enemy's weakness and then automatically use that
Huh.
weakness towards them. It's very strange, and I used it like maybe a few times, but I don't rely on Ignis for magic. That's my job,
Yeah, that's
because
typically how I do it because, you know, you do have a limited amount of magic you can do. You can't just spam magic all you want. You have to do it, fuse it
No,
with
no,
items,
no, no.
and then it's just limited item usage. Because they're
Yes.
so powerful. They do so much damage.
Yeah, you can easily get max damage in this game.
For one of the endgame bosses, I used one of the magic attack, quad magic, on one of the endgame bosses and was able, with 2 uses, I was able to get his health all the way down to 3/4 of his health bar.
Yeah, magic in this game is very overpowered. Just knowing what weakness to pull out is the main issue, which there is strategy to how resistances and weaknesses work in this game. It's just not too relevant. Like it's not like, oh, you can't be using this weapon in particular because they're immune to it. For the most part, magic kind of does that, but not weapon class.
So, Vir, how about that wait mode?
Wait mode? Oh yeah, that thing. Let's. The game gives you the option of going either in active mode or wait mode. Wait mode is for active mode, because it's just fluid and everything.
Wait
If
mode
you've
is
played
there if you really want to have that sort of strategy where you want to be able to go in and just sort of be able to take your time, be able to analyze all the different enemies and plan every single one of your moves. But you don't need to do that. It's such an easy game.
Yeah, it's such an easy game as is. You don't really need wait mode, which kind of makes it a big why.
Maybe
Because
for harder modes, because I played the entire game on the normal difficulty. I always just do that.
is there a hard mode?
There is a hard mode.
Okay, I didn't see it. I thought I saw easy, but I don't think I saw hard. But I'm blind.
I believe there is a hard mode. But,
I'll get to looking at it when I play the game again. I beat it like 2 weeks ago.
yeah, and they just added an ability for New Game Plus, so there you go. Thanks, update.
Certainly going to be interesting. Yeah. Which apparently there at the time of this recording there's a bunch of DLC coming out already. Thank you, Square Enix. Bless you. It ain't like as if we did. Heck yeah.
I mean, everyone gets the update, but there's a bunch of items that Season Pass owners get. So they're actually already treating us better than the fucking Batman Arkham Knight Season Pass. I am really glad it did not support that, but I definitely did follow all the news with that. That seemed like a...
Yeah, it seemed like a train wreck.
Yeah, especially since, like, later they started, like, discounting the Season Pass to $25. I'm like, jeez, I feel bad.
Okay.
I feel bad for people who paid $50
wait,
for it.
$50 for the Batman. Okay.
And then in Final Fantasy 15, it's just 25.
It's 25 for all the DLC, which it comes with. They've said it comes with 4 different DLC packs for each character in your party, as well as added bonuses like costumes and stuff.
Or was the Arkham Knight 40? Anyways, but yeah, you get.
That's still a lot.
It's still a lot. It's still way too much for any season pass. But 25, it's like, you know, normally people would be like, oh, I really do think they did this honestly just because of the 10-year development span. They put so many resources into this game. They wouldn't know how much return. And it looks like, the game's doing sort of, kind of well. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. The game is a major success in the West.
I think we're at 8 million copies. I could.
Jeez! Man.
I know we passed 5 million.
Oh, man. The game is... I know it passed 6 million a while ago, a few weeks ago, because this game is a major Western hit. Because the Japanese have not been digging this as much. Kind of interesting.
It's strange. It really is.
It really is. I really think it's because this sort of style of game, this sort of style of action game, it doesn't do as well in Japan. They prefer, the more strategy, the tactical, the more you think things through, and Western just sort of likes the fun, fast-paced action sort of games. I don't know, I could be, that's typically what I see when it comes to sales, and they really like the niche stuff. Like, apparently Japan really likes games like Lollipop Chainsaw, while the West could not give a shit about it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Even still, it's like this game has not done as well in Japan. I mean, it did better than Persona 5, because we all knew that was going to happen. It's Final Fantasy, it has a bigger name attached, and there's going to be a bigger base of Final Fantasy fans that are just going to buy every single Final Fantasy game that exists. So that was going to happen. Yeah. But regardless, it has been a major success in the West.
Yes, the first week, it sold 5 million.
Okay. Ooh,
that's
big. I mean, it's a worldwide launch, but even still, that's
I think everybody knows about this game existing. So
yeah,
it really is crazy.
It did have good word of mouth from critics and from fans. There are some hardcore fans who still think that this game, like I said at the beginning, was not quite what they wanted. And, because people just want a turn-based Final Fantasy. I personally think that the Bravely game...
That sort of thought process bothers me, because it's progress. You can't just stay... Square Enix is not a kind of company that likes to stay in one place. That much is clear over the years, because they've changed their mechanics all the time.
Yeah, and even still, they do have other franchises that do have that same sort of style. But I'll point to the Bravely Default and
Bravely Default. There's Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest is turn-based, I believe. I don't play Dragon Quest.
Yes, Dragon Quest has tried to branch out at times. I know, like 10 was an MMO, but Dragon Quest for the most part stays in the sort of turn-based style.
If you want turn-based RPGs from Square Enix, go play fucking Dragon Quest, you weebs.
Or Bravely Default, which is literally turn-based Final Fantasy.
These are all good games.
And it's not like it's just a nostalgia thing where they're just not adding anything. They're adding new mechanics to it through the Brave and Default sort of system. And, more people are familiar with that, and so they're just trying to figure out different ways to appeal to different markets. Final Fantasy 15, it's a very action-heavy game, and they wanted to make a action-heavy game, so I think, and I believe, they should be able to branch out and do different sort of things. Some people think that it should just be exclusive to spin-offs, but, I think that's a
Final Fantasy is Square Enix's strange child, which... they love putting it through every different school in the country. Think of it as a Penn student, I guess, is what they call them. Just a student that travels across schools across the country and stuff, learning new things, trying out different ideas, and sometimes those ideas are not great. Look at 13 or 12 for that matter. And then you have successes like 14 and how 15 work. They're all different in their own way, and that's just how Square Enix has gone through it. They've been doing it for years, and I don't see why 15 is such a big deal to go full action.
Yeah,
we've been going to that for years now.
And I also do want to talk a little bit more about the combat, just a little bit, because it's like because a lot of people definitely do think that it's hold circle to win, because, there's no strikes. You are just holding one button for the most part and dodging and parrying on occasion. So some people think that that's a little bit repetitive, or, that's not quite as complex as the Devil May Cry sort of games or the Kingdom Hearts games. So what do you
It's
think
not.
about
It's
that?
stylish in its own way. It's stylish in its own way for me to what for how it looks, not for how you play it.
Mhm.
There are very different ways to play the game. Loads of different styles for you to choose at your own
Lots of different
leisure.
weapons. Lots of different weapons.
Yes.
I still praise Final Fantasy 15 for changing weapons on the fly because so many,
So diverse in its
so
combat
many
system.
action games nowadays don't let you switch on the fly. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is one of the biggest examples. It's like I never switch weapons because I just want to be
Yeah,
using.
there's no
one.
reason to. You just use your one combo system,
And
which you can do for Final Fantasy 15 as
but
well.
they do have the royal weapons, which do consume.
The royal weapons for me are my favorite weapons in the game.
And
There's
it
a lot
also-
that are really fun.
Yes, and it also encourages you to switch between royal weapons and regular weapons. It's like you could do it, but you're also doing more damage with the royal weapons, but you're also taking damage.
Losing HP.
Losing
There's
HP
ways
with
to
every
get
single
behind that though.
Yeah.
If
Yeah, but
if
the
you have
majority-
like some kind of armor which increases your HP gain per second, it can negate that, and I like that. There's workarounds for everything in this game.
But if you don't have
combat
that-
wise.
Yeah, but if you don't have that, you will be switching weapons all the time.
Yeah.
You'll be switching off and on, and
Play the way you like.
yeah, play the way you like. And now they're adding systems like you can't level up so that you can have more challenge runs. I don't know why you do that.
The level 1 run.
The level run runs, go ahead. But yeah, I think I do enjoy the combat system, and there are different ways that they can improve, and be able to make it a little bit more complex, add some new combat.
Maybe they will later down the line.
Later down the line, but as it stands, I think
I
think
doubt
it's-
it'll be very drastic.
Yeah, there are going to be some people who are really into those sorts of action games who really want really complex mechanics, like the Devil May Cry games, and this game isn't. Those combat mechanics are not catering to you.
Yeah, if
More so,
you're not looking for this game for that sort of style.
This is a game for Final Fantasy fans and first timers, not Devil May Cry fans and first timers.
Yeah,
But so the system is well designed so that fans can be able to get a decent amount of enjoyment, and first timers can jump right in, be able to have a sort of genre that they're familiar with, because the action genre is a little bit bigger than the JRPG genre now, sadly. But and Final Fantasy is sort of tapping into it, adding their own nuances, all their different stuff, and I think that it ends up working.
they're going the balance route with it, and I like that.
Yeah, and I think the game works well for that. So yes, I do enjoy the combat system, and I think that it works. I think it's fun, and I had a lot of fun playing it throughout my 40-hour experience. Even when, even in the latter half, where I think that the pacing, while it was a little bit off, I still enjoyed the combat system. And that's the end of part 1. I apologize for the abrupt end, but at that point we were heading into spoilers, and the discussion was getting a little long, and I couldn't find a natural transition, so it just sort of ended that way. I hope you enjoyed part 1 regardless, and I hope you come in for part 2.